Chief, first of all, great to see you. Appreciate
Thank you.
Great
to see you too.
All right, so as you're getting ready to wrap up a 30-year career here at OPD, what are your thoughts as you're approaching that milestone?
It's been a great career. If I was to do it all over again, I would not change a thing.
No regrets, no nothing along the way, huh?
None. You know, there's a saying that goes, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. And that was so true during my career here. Yep, you know, you had some challenges along the way that came up. We had officer losses that we, went through. We dealt with the pandemic, social unrest. But even then, I still knew or felt that I was here for a purpose, and my purpose was to deliver on my oath, and which was to serve and protect. And that's what kept me going.
All right, so a lot of people have already heard your story. They know you're retiring, so we're going to do rapid fire. You good with that?
Good with it.
All right, first one. Biggest surprise when you got on the job that you didn't think that was going to be a part of the job?
Working with the inner circle within city government. That surprised me.
Really?
Navigating through that process, and everyone obviously has great responsibilities to ensure that everything is done right, but navigating through that process was a little challenging.
Follow up to that one. I'm allowed to follow up here. Was it the bureaucratic side of it? So you'd done the policing, but then comes the PR job, I guess.
To a certain extent it was. You know, obviously, sometimes the way we think, in law enforcement, we are quick to act, and we have to be very quick to judging situations as to how you will respond to them. So for us to deal with something that may take days or weeks, for others it may take weeks or months or years, to process. So just dealing through that. But again, everyone in government has to be very prudent in their decisions. And when it comes to the staff that we work with, and we work with a lot of staff, they have a job to do, and we respect that.
All right, so Chief will not be joining committees in retirement. Check that one off. Moment on the job you won't forget?
Pulse, by far. It's probably one of the most shocking events that any community in this country has ever had to endure.
Take us through that night. Were you on the job?
And I was sleeping at home, as most deputy chiefs were, and got the call. And you already knew that the call was very unusual. It was an active shooter situation inside of a nightclub, but no one fathomed the extent of the carnage that was experienced that night and how many lives that touched. So to me, that probably will be the most memorable moment, as far as impactful moment in our career, as a shocker.
Remember, we were on the news desk that morning, and when the Chief Mina then at that point came out and said the number, we just couldn't disbelieve. What was it like behind the scenes? Even
for us, we knew we had a lot of casualties. We knew that we had the likelihood of many people having lost their lives. But even our early numbers, we think we have 25, and then those numbers just as again, the event unfolded and we got a better grasp of what had occurred inside, then of course 49 souls were taken that day.
This one may be similar. What keeps you up at night?
The officers out and about doing their job, and the dangers that they face when the phone rings in the middle of the night. And it's not uncommon for the chief of police to receive phone calls in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Initially, your worst fear is let that not be one of our officers who has been hurt, because it's an inherent risk of the profession. But thankfully, we have invested a lot in making sure that we do proper, officer safety training. We have numbers that support our process. It's not uncommon for someone to request help, and immediately officers are there on the spot. We have that ability with an agency our size. And we also encourage officer safety to ensure our officers understand that if one officer is out on a vehicle stop or one officer is going to a call, someone, whether they're being asked to do so or not, is always mindful of the fact that they're there, and they start heading that way. It's just the way that we do business.
All right, next rapid fire. What do you wish people knew about your job? Because you hear from the public all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What do you wish they knew about?
As a chief or as a law enforcement officer?
As a chief.
As a chief, that you wear many hats, and you have to juggle a lot when it comes to the chief of police. We are well prepared to take the role of a chief, but until you are sitting in that chair and you're handling the day-to-day duties, do you realize how important and how critical it is to balance 3 key components: one, the needs of the members of the agency. Two, obviously the people that we serve, our citizens, and then also the elected officials. Not just, I'm talking about within the city government that you represent, but all elected officials. It's another component that plays part of the mix that you have to respond to or address as a chief of police.
All right, next rapid fire. How are you different today than you were when you first took the job?
My hair is a lot grayer, a lot grayer. Sure. But it's a funny thing. Every time you look at one of our former chiefs who has gone on to do something else, they pretty much, it's like they rejuvenate about 5 years. They look younger when they leave. I think it gave me a very, very good grasp on how intricate our whole system is when it comes to government and the services that they're responsible for giving our citizens or providing to our citizens, but also how the private sector plays into this as far as, the jobs that they provide, the services that they provide, how critical that is for a healthy community to have a healthy economy, and you get to intermingle with a lot of people from all different disciplines. And I think that is probably the one thing that as a chief of police, it's the most rewarding. You really, really have an opportunity to see how our community functions and what it takes to make it great.
Best piece of advice you were given, and who gave it to you before you took the job?
So before I took the job, really, in all honesty, it was a buddy of mine who was here at the police department. Back then, there was an incentive to bring more minorities into the profession. He convinced me to take a ride-along. I took a ride-along and I was hooked. I took a $13,000 pay cut to become a police officer back then. Obviously, our city, our police department, our mayor and city council have invested in public safety. Our officers today are starting approximately $50,000 a year. A 12-year officer without any rank can make $85,000 a year today. And of course, that'll continue to move up in the future as far as salary and wages. It was more of a, I felt it was more of a calling after I did my ride-along than more of a, I wish I could be a police officer because maybe I'll I don't know, maybe become a detective one day. No, it was from that first day that I went on a ride-along and I saw the great work the law enforcement officers were doing that I felt that it was something that I should do. And again, I took a $13,000 pay cut to do so.
Best piece of wisdom you can pass on to the next chief?
So I have already heard him address this, and it is vital that that be the case. You must balance the needs of the community when it comes to addressing crime, but also equally as important to maintain relationships that to earn the trust of our citizen, but much harder to protect that trust. And if you're able to balance both, and both are very important, then you will have a very successful career as a chief of police.
What are you going to miss most?
The people. Not only, of course, my family here at the Orlando Police Department, because it is family. And just like any family, you have your ups and downs sometimes with your family members. And the citizens. This job has allowed me to meet people from all over the world, literally from all over the world. Here's this young Puerto Rican who came to Central Florida with English as a second language. I was a construction worker working for a developer as an assistant superintendent who had no college, and by the grace of God, I was a United States Marine. I had served in the Marines, and I was given a chance. And that chance allowed me to get a college education through the benefits offered by the city of Orlando, and I was able to progress up the ranks to become the chief of police, the first Hispanic chief of police of the Orlando Police Department, and back then 143 years. So with that said, I think that this is one career that citizens really truly should learn more about, especially those who want to do something when it comes to public service that has far more rewards than it does have negative. Yes, inherent risk of very concerning situations at times, but for the most part, where else would I have had the opportunity to shake the hand of the sitting president and former presidents of the United States? I was able to do that in this department.